Honestly, I don't know what is going on at Ferrari anymore. They started with high expectations in Bahrain testing and had a positive outlook for the season. And then we came to Australia. And a freaking Racing Bull and Williams outqualified both the Ferraris. A Racing Bull and Williams. Yikes. And then the rain comes down during the race and everyone pits and Lewis stays out and he's leading the race. I was like, Ferrari can still do this. They're so back.
Lewis Hamilton leads on Ferrari debut. Charles Leclerc is second.
But then it started raining and it started raining more and even more. And then they had to pit and then they finally finished 8th and 10th. So then we head over to China and Lewis takes the sprint pole. And he wins the sprint. What a complete surprise. This time we're so back. For real, right? Then they qualify 5th and 6th and finish in the same positions in the race. But then they get disqualified after the race. And then we're back to square one. So as a Ferrari fan, this is just utterly painful. So I decided to dig into their qualifying pace and see what the hell is going on and why is Ferrari just so inconsistent. So here I plotted the fastest laps of each driver in each qualifying session to see how the teams were improving during the session. As you can see, the McLarens improved a lot over the course of qualifying. Like this curve over here shows the progression that they did. And if you compare that with the other teams, you can see they don't improve that much. Whereas McLaren goes like this and most of the other teams go like that. Max and George improved too, but not at the scale of the McLarens. And that's where the main difference is between the top four and the Ferraris. The Ferraris barely improved. Like you can see over here, it is pretty much flat. And in fact, their only improvement in Q3 was from track evolution. And Hamilton was actually slower in Q3 than in Q2. Leclerc also mentioned that in the post-quality interview that they were struggling with rear instability. So I'm guessing that they were at the car's performance limit with that setup. Moving on to the sprint qualifying, Lewis pulls a complete surprise and puts his car on pole. Looking at the progression from Q3 to Q1, Ferrari definitely seemed to be good on the medium tires, as the straightaway were fast in Q1, but couldn't replicate that pace in Q2. In fact, when almost everyone improved, both Ferraris actually went slower. Like, look at this over here. They're the only team that actually went slower in Q2 compared to every other team that made an improvement. So I think that was down to tire prep, because a lot of the teams and drivers were saying that the tires this year are a lot more sensitive to warm up and preparation. So maybe they just got the tire prep wrong. Because in Q3, both of them nailed the laps and got the tire preparation just right. It also helped that the drivers around them either didn't get their tire prep perfect or made mistakes. So that definitely played into their hands. But they definitely did a really good job in sprint qualifying. But then jumping into qualifying, this was the big mystery point for Ferrari. They only made slight changes to the setup, but couldn't keep up with the McLarens or Max and George. And they suddenly started struggling to keep the car glued to the track. And that was the maximum they could achieve with that setup. This just shows how sensitive these cars are to setups and tire prep, and how narrow their ideal operating window is. Even George was surprised by how well he improved his Q3 time. Look at that improvement over here. Like, he was nowhere in Q2, but then in Q3 he just got everything right. Like, this is a massive improvement. And to split the orange cars is huge. He also mentioned that they tried a lot of things, from tire prep to setup and everything in between. And finally everything came together in Q3. So I just hope Ferrari figures out their car by next race, because after the disqualification that they just had in China, they can only go up from here, right?